So in the meantime, same to our audience, today we are having Italy on board as well. So
welcome.
Valentino, a great pleasure to have you here.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So how is Rome?
Blocked. It is now. No, I mean the weather is great and there is sun, very, very, very nice weather. But actually, we have to be at home. So I mean, till Sunday. Actually, I mean, we have been doing. I mean, we have been in quarantine for 1 month and a half now so far. So start to be tough. But yes, actually, you know, as 90 as the big part of the world. I mean,
yeah. Actually, something what is already like same what we have in common, Buenos Aires and Italy, we are all locked in. That's the Germany. Our audience from Germany have some more liberty, and I always follow the discussions in Germany right now, the press, and they're all claiming for more freedom, more liberty, more. And I said, like, oh, you already can go out. We cannot even go out for 500 meters to walk our dog around the block. It would be great, but well, we are still waiting for Predrag as well. He's from Shanghai, so China is joining us as well. I will see if China is making it. He's a really interesting artist as well. So from the University and School of Creativity and Art in Shanghai in China. So China being in the center of the discussion of this pandemic, no, will be interesting as well. So Italy and China. Well, let's see how many are already joining. Well, we have 31 participants. We can start with a short introduction. Christian, if you are ready.
Hello everyone. Welcome everyone from both sides of the pond. It is a real pleasure to be here again, Verena, accompanying you. And well, I'm representing Radio Cultura, which is a local radio broadcasting system. Sustainability and environment are a big part of our program. Our program is Estilo 21, and we're really very proud to support this kind of webinars. And of course, Joaquin, who is challenging us with new ideas and challenging us to rethink what we are doing and what is happening. And last week we had the Day of the Earth, and we had this interesting webinar also for the local market. And we were talking about different things, and as said, everyone is asking, I mean, we are all confined, as our Italian colleague said, or the majority of us are, so this gives us more time to think, and also people are continuously thinking, when are we going back to normality? And we know that normality wasn't working at all, so we shouldn't go back to normal, we should go back to a better normal. And I believe Joaquin is the right person to challenge us with new ideas and giving us a new approach and rethink what is happening in the earth. And maybe for the first time in decades, we are all united because we have all the same problem right now, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And well, also I would like to welcome our audience, our big audience who is following the webinar through Zoom. Last week, Zoom was not big enough because we had a lot of people that couldn't attend, but maybe this time they could attend as well, even for the European audience. So then I believe this webinar is getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and it's the interesting part of it, especially because Joaquin, he will tell us about his new project, because we are already part of the new project actually with this discussion and conference. So it will be really interesting. Maybe we can just get started. I think we have we're German time and Argentine punctuality. Maybe. So
it's a good combination.
It's a good combination, I think. Then we have Spain here. So Claudia from Spain and Cuartes, and Frank from Argentina, Johnny from Puerto Rico, Valentino from Italy, and who else is joining here right now? And I missed Guillermo, also from Buenos Aires, and Christian, of course, and Joaquin. So we are all waiting here, and just get started, I would say. I make a short introduction about what is Manos Verdes also, and what are we doing? Taking care of our planet is actually our main mission. Our main mission is to generate awareness for the responsible use of our natural resources, and we mainly work in environmental education. But we also promote exactly the exchange of knowledge and technologies for the protection of the environment. So especially between Europe and Latin America, but actually now it's more international already, because we also have a big exchange with Asia. So with the Camera of Mercosur ASEAN, Andrea Guadalupe, she cannot join us today, but she sent us her best wishes. So we always aim for innovative solutions also to solve existing problems through joint developments. And actually we start with each of us. Our vision is really that every individual takes care of our environment and achieves a responsible and sustainable use of our resources. So back hands-on, but the responsibility has everybody of us. So that's our main focus of Manos Verdes. I don't want to get into more detail. Our website is not working right now, I just admit. So please, for any information, next week, I think we will go online with a new version. And our social media are the best information source right now. Today, Joaquin will give us an overview about some of his projects he was working with, and he has really some really interesting projects. And well, he integrates art, science, and technology in artistic production since 1990 already. No, before you were an engineer, studied engineer, you were an entrepreneur, you were selling skateboards as well for some time in Argentina. So really an interesting profile. So, and his work has been exposed in museums, galleries, and biennales across the world, like Ars Electronica in Austria and the Biennale of Arts in Venice. And besides, he's the founder and director of the Interactive Technology Center Exploratoria in Buenos Aires, Argentina, which objective is to support the teaching of physics, chemistry, biology, environmental science, robotics, and informatics in a creative and interactive way. And he also was executive director of the Latin American and Caribbean Network for the popularization of science and technology of the UNESCO, which objective is to connect and support the different science and technology center in this region. Just a shortcut of your bio, because your bio is really interesting. I don't want to go into more details, but if somebody of you has some more questions later on, we have Facebook, internet, also, well, a website not for right now, but you can send us all of your concerns to us by Instagram, Facebook, or also Twitter or email. So I just give the word now to the other participants to have a short give a short overview which organization is participating, and maybe Claudia will start today. Claudia, are you prepared?
Yes, okay.
Claudia from Co-Artis de Barcelona.
Thank you for inviting me again to this conference. And Co-Artis is an international nonprofit organization that seeks to generate connection between art, science, and technology. We are a bridge between these professionals. We create and organize and produce exhibitions, expeditions, research, and conferences that tackle ecological issues as climate emergency and the biodiversity crisis. And so, should I ask Joaquin right now, or?
I think the question, keep it for maybe later. Then we start after the presentation again with the question, but keep it in mind, especially.
Okay, and that's all, a short introduction.
Okay, go back to Buenos Aires. Frank, do you want to get started?
Hello, everybody. I'm Francisco Paredes from Buenos Aires, Argentina, visual artist and cultural manager. 11 years ago, I founded La Paternal Recicla, where we promote environmental awareness through creativity, art, and design. We are currently developing a project to activate sustainable culture for small and medium communities.
Okay. You have interesting gardening project, urban gardening project also, we heard last time. And you had a lot of participants from La Paternal in our last conference. So really interesting what you're doing. I just select and we go to Johnny to Puerto Rico to change a little bit in between countries.
Hi, everybody. My name is Johnny Lugo Vega. I am a conservation scientist and also a director of the Cultural Heritage Innovation Program of the Puerto Rico Science, Technology, and Research Trust, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to contribute to achieving a well-being of communities in Puerto Rico through technology, innovation, and research. Basically, I just want to thank Manos Berry Foundation and artist Joaquin Fargas for the invitation and all the colleagues in the panel. The year is taking a break as we all share this. Joaquin's laboratory complex thinking is a way to generate the commemoration of the World Earth Day, but the continuity to reflect over Earth, thinking about more further. And briefly, Puerto Rico have many ways to think about Earth, especially the vulnerability we face around hurricane, earthquakes, and so on. So we are working with Joaquin Fargas in a project, Pulsar la Tierra, which further we can share more details. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Johnny. Guillermo, what about you? Prepared.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Verena and Joaquin, for the invitation. My name is Guillermo Winicki. I am an engineer and cultural manager also. I work for the National Technological University in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And I focus in promoting the connection between art, science, and technology, also to contribute to take care of the environment. Okay, perfect. Short presentation.
Thank you very much. And I think our missing is Italy, Valentino. So.
Hello, thank you for inviting me. I'm Valentino from Italy, Rome, as you said, and I'm a scholar and contemporary art curator. I'm now the director of the art section of the European edition of the Maker Faire and art consultant at Sony Lab in Paris.
Really interesting.
And my main theme, I'm focusing on relationship between art and technology and between art and innovation, because I think that artists can also create not only content for contemporary artwork, but also real innovation working with scientists and companies, etc.
Really good, interesting. So you're also connecting the different sectors. I think that's something we have all in common. We are like thinking between the boxes and out of the box, not? So I think I will give the word to Joaquin. Christian, do you have any more information? Well, just some technical information for the audience again, maybe?
Well, yes, it's important to stress that the last time we had questions through Q&A and chat. We prefer if you ask your questions through the chat. So we have only one column to look at.
Sorry,
oh, Q&A, sorry. So then Q&A and not the chat. So this way we have only one column on the Q&A question side. So please start right away with your questions so we can start to collect all the different interests from the different parties.
Okay. And I think then we give the word to Joaquin, so he can share now your presentation. And Joaquin, he will also answer the questions after his presentation, of course. So it will now like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe, we'll see. You have to switch on your, ahí está, el tono.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to give a presentation, a short presentation. I will try to keep it short. And now let's share the screen and okay. So the question is, what happened with the environment right now? This is an image of, Australia on fire was last December. And now this is the image of a comparison between the level of pollution in China before the the pandemic, and now it's just 1 month after China stopped the industrial production. And this is because this presentation has the name, the Earth is taking a break. And this is really a break for our planet. And now I'm going to talk about what can do art, science, and technology. Or the question is, what can do art for the environment? Has any ideas? Has any solutions? Art is not supposed to have the right solution, not supposed to be science, but maybe something that we can collaborate with the planet. Is like raising awareness for the climate change, for example, talking about some kind of solutions that could be weird or utopic solutions, but we have to do something. The question is that, for example, Christian said that it's the first time from decades that we are in with a common goal, the whole community. I think this is the first time in the humanity history that we are following the same goal. We have the same objective. It's the very, very first time for the whole society. So for me, this is important because, you know, the objectives are mainly different, at least different or antagonic. They are cause wars. The human history is about the history of the wars. So this is the first time that we have probably a great opportunity to transform this crisis in a great opportunity to work all together, thinking a new model of world. But we are going to talk about that later. I will start with some projects from my own perspective, art projects that maybe they can give a small contribution on a way of thinking about our planet, a way of thinking about climate change and this kind of solutions. The first project is called the Biosphere Project. It's about putting some ecosystems inside a sphere, a container, and this ecosystem composed by plants and small animals, microscopic algae or bacteria, all together work as a whole ecosystem. And my own purpose in this project is to provoke the people to ask themselves questions. For example, questions like, where did the oxygen came from? Why the plants can survive in a completely sealed environment? And the answer to this question is that these small spheres are like our own planet. In an infinitesimal scale, they represent our planet, and you can see the fragility of our world in this planet, in this small planet. All the resources are absolutely limited and are not endless, that we think sometimes that the world is like that. This project has an educational program associated. We encourage the students to make their own ecosystem and to follow how they can maintain this world, to take care of the world. In a small scale, they are taking care of our own planet. This is a small one you see on the table. The children make these small spheres to give to deliver them to opinion makers, the decision makers, with the concept that the world is in their hands. The world is in the hands of everybody of us, but there are people that have more responsibility, like politicians or journalists. They receive these spheres with the concept that the world is in their hands and they have to do something. For now, I switched to other project. I went to ice to Antarctica. In the first expedition, I put 3 windmills on a glacier near the base Esperanza in the Argentine side. And these 3 windmills generate electricity and cool the glacier. The concept is that what can do these 3 small windmills? It's impossible to make a change for the glacier. But the concept is that we must do something. Even if we don't know the result, we have to do something. If not, we already know the result. These 3 windmills are called the project Don Quixote Against Climate Change. And Don Quixote was this character from Cervantes that fight against windmills in the region of La Mancha in Spain, thinking that there were aliens, that the purpose was to take over the world. So this is the way that we can think that maybe we can tackle some problems that may be huge problems, but we have to do something. The second time I went to Antarctica, I brought 2 robots called the glaciators. Glaciators, they were designed to fight against climate change also, and they work to provide the glaciers more ice. As soon as start snowing, these robots start smashing the snow and transforming the snow into ice, while adhering this to the mass glacier. This is a process that naturally takes thousands of years, maybe millions of years. And maybe technology could help to accelerate this process and to maintain the glaciers. These are all projects that are under the umbrella called the Utopia Project, because they are utopic, they are real projects. But I encourage other artists to present projects, to work for encouraging the scientists of technologies now and in the future to do something. This is one of the pictures we have from the video. Of glaciator working. And some people ask me, how many of them we need to maintain the glacier? I say, I don't know, this is just an art project. It's to encourage the scientists to do something, to think outside the box, thinking another kind of project. But they have the purpose to raise awareness on climate change, and they did this project very well because we were presented in many places, and the people felt, they feel that they have to do something about climate change. And this is the purpose of these small creatures working in Antarctica. This is another robot that went to other place called Atacama Desert in Chile, the driest place in the world. NASA said that this was a spot with the less humidity in the atmosphere. And in this case, this robot has cells here that generate cold through solar panels. And this is called Rhabdomante. Rhabdomante was this kind of person, this character that could feel the waves generated from a source of water. And this is what is called Rhabdomante, trying to find the water in the desert. This is also an utopian project. It's impossible to work with these small creatures to make a change with the water. But what they generate is a new kind of cycle of nature. It's a new cycle of nature that maybe can be useful, we don't know. This is just another project, but expect to do something or a way of thinking, and also as is a educational project associated. It was exposed in Antofagasta in Chile, and this is the kind of new cycle of water that we can think. The sun transformed in a solar panel, the sunlight is transformed into electricity, and in the peltier cells, it generates cold. The cold condensates the water from the atmosphere, and we obtain water. The same sun that evaporates the water in the desert generates again, recovers the water from the atmosphere. This is a kind of new cycle. Who knows? Maybe it can be useful for the future. We don't know. But there are a lot of people asking us from the desert if they can use this with the old ancient system that collect water with condensation, that maybe this could be a good technological addition to the ancient technology. We don't know, but this is possible. Well, now I will introduce a complex thought lab. That is what we are trying to share all the ideas about the future of our planet. Maybe this is a great opportunity to start thinking if we could do something, thinking a new model of planet where we can change solidarity with what we are trying to do when this pandemic finishes. We are thinking to come to the abnormal situation that was before. What about the ceasefire? Ceasefire is all around the world. The first time that we have this almost ceasefire everywhere. And what about after the pandemic? We are continue taking care of the life, or we start fighting again? For example, a nuclear weapon costs more or less between $20 and $50 million. With $20 million, you can buy more than 1,000 ventilators right now. What about thinking of the future of making a kind, changing the nuclear weapon arsenal by medical arsenals, and to be prepared for another disease that could come in the future? And instead of having weapons, we can have medical equipment. Well, this is open to questions and to any, all my work is about questions, and we don't have the answers. Sometimes we can have a little answer, but it's about continue asking ourselves. This is a way that we can think other kind of life that could be possible. Maybe the ideas are utopic, but for example, I like to talk to Antarctica, the place that I'm very acquainted. And for me, Antarctica is the first time that it's a kind of continent that is between the utopia and the dystopia, because the utopia ways, because this is the first time that the whole nations of the whole world, they agree how to administrate a region of the world. Why can we think of our whole planet to be administrated like Antarctica? Okay, I finished here, so we have time to debate and ask questions and continue with the panelists that I think they have a lot of things to add to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Joaquin. I truly believe that you just gave us a lot of information, and it's very clear that caring is not enough. Just simply caring is not enough, and we learned this lesson as we have seen, and now we have more time to think about it. I would also like to ask the other members of the committee of the panel to help me out with some questions. But before we go to the other questions, Verena, but I really believe caring is not enough. We are in the second phase, because you constantly read in the news different kind of articles. Yeah, we have to care for the environment, yeah, but this is not enough. Now we have to go to another phase, at least in my opinion. I don't know what you think, Verena.
Yeah, I think I think going back to one of the things that Joaquin said, we were a long time thinking about this model of how you can translate, for example, the experience of Antarctic to governate the Antarctic area as a common ground all together from different nations, no? And if this could be a model for the whole world, this is for me one of the biggest questions, because it actually already came up when some years ago, we were talking about this regarding the Amazon area. You have the same topic. If the Amazon is the lung of the world, why cannot we also take part in the decisions what happens to the Amazon area, to the deforestation, to everything what is happening there? Why is it the right of Colombia to be able to make the deforestation, or I just took a country, or Brazil? For me, it's a big question how the world can participate, and everybody of us can really participate in the future decisions of the living of our species and on this planet. I think this is one of the biggest questions. So how can we also participate, Joaquin? How can everyone participate in these big decisions?
Well, this is it's a huge question, because it's about changing the mind that we perceive the privacy, or we perceive the for example, I think this is a great opportunity to change our minds, because we are thinking of what separates us. Religion, race, everything is different. So we try to be part of a country, for example. What about nationalism, or what about patriotism? What is this about? It's about protecting the place, and the place is our own planet. So this is a difficult decision. I think Antarctica was an explored place, a place where you cannot live. It's a place that everybody wants to be there. But when you are there, you feel that there is no way to live there. So you said, oh, I prefer to be in my place where I have everything. There are no plants here, there nothing grows. So because of that, there are no, at first sight, interested people. So they decide how to administrate that. Coming back to the Amazon, that is a difficult issue. Amazon belongs to many different countries. And they said, we decide what to do in this country. We are not allowing people to think with us what we can do here, because this is about sovereignty or something like that. It's not about that you can make the decision for us. If you talk to Brazil, they said, no, we don't allow people to talk about Amazon. Amazon is ours.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. I think I don't know how we can change the minds of the people, but it's something utopic that we must to think about that. How we can change and think that the whole world is just one world. And we have to think of that. But this is a big question, that one, with no answer.
Verena, shall we go to our panelists, maybe with some further questions?
Yeah, I think Claudia is already prepared already now.
Yes, hi. I think we all agree that art has a fundamental role to promote critical thinking, that it's really important in this situation. And I'm thinking how in this time of social distance, how the traditional spaces, the institution of art, museums, galleries, the cultural centers, how you, Joaquin, as an artist, do you think they have to transform or rethink the way they communicate art to the people?
Well, there are many ways I think of that. First of all, I don't agree with social distance. There is no social distance. We are connected right now, all together. What is this
Can
about?
I say something? But for this institution, the public presentation is like an essence.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, that's why.
The whole world is talking about the social distance. I think it's physical distance. We can talk about physical distance, but not social, because we are more connected than before. We have more connection with the people. We are very busy these days. You call people, say, oh, no, but you are at home, you can, no, I have 3 or 4 conferences and I have no time, maybe next week. So it's something surprising. But I think there are many ways to connect the institutions. With Guillermo Winicki in 2004, we organized what we call a global museum. It was a way to connect the museums where you cannot visit in a physical way, to connect them through internet. This could be a good option to have this global museum system today. In those days, in 2004, we put a robotic arm, and he was in Buenos Aires, in the Centro Metropolitano de Diseño in Buenos Aires, with the robotic arm. That this robotic arm play with cues, and you can change the names, and you can control this robotic arm through. I went to the US and Europe and present the project with different people with a netbook that you can control this. It was so new that the people were looking to the netbook as a new device, because it's one of the first netbooks in the world. And this was the first time that we can connect the museums to the people in a almost physical way, because we have this telematic. But today you have a lot of opportunities. And for example, Johnny Lugo from Puerto Rico trying to connect different institutions, and there are institutions that have all the works in digital, so you can share the works with the people. And there are other ways. For example, I was invited from Francis Naranjo, is an artist from Europe, from Canarias. And in September, we are starting an exhibition, a digital exhibition of my work there. That is a previous exhibition for the physical exhibition that will take place in 2021. So there are many ways that all the institutions can start working. And also these kind of conferences there are a lot of them managed by art institutions. So I think this is a way to be connected in the times of coronavirus, and maybe art in the time of coronavirus is something that maybe it's a good opportunity again to connect better to each other.
I think it's what last time we talked with Guillermo exactly about this topic, that art is now looking for the people. Before it was around the other way around, the people were looking for the arts. Now the art is looking for the people. So the art is coming to us, to our house, to our social media. We also would have had now an exhibition in Usina del Arte about the plastic garbage project from an exhibition from Switzerland. And now we're planning to do also a previous exhibition in just the social media. So it's really interesting. So we can actually meet people who would not have visited us. This is the interesting part. So now I think it's even more important that art, the role art plays right now, because we are more communicating, especially than before, maybe.
It's very interesting what you're mentioning, Mirena, because as I see here, it's not a real question, but we were saying that we are united because we all have a common denominator, and this is the pandemic. Then we are confined at home. But Andrea Costa is mentioning, well, it was Imagine was a beautiful song. It was in a way talking about this. No, imagine if the world can leave us one. No.
Sorry. Imagine there were no people was also part of the text.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also.
Exactly. Yeah. Valentino, ¿quieres agregar? Do you want to? Sometimes I always switch to Spanish. Sorry.
But I can understand. I can also understand it. So. But actually, you know, Joaquin knows very well that I really appreciate his work. You know, he presented in the last year at the Maker Fair this both, I mean the robots both, and
yes,
it was very, very interesting. Also, he gave a lecture in Rome, and it was a very, very interesting because there is something to say which is very close related to the vision of the artist, because when we say human and nature, we have two problems: human and nature, which are two big problems actually. Because it is the way in which we pose the matters around Anthropocene, around nature, respecting the planet. It's almost always, not always, but almost always a matter of dualism. We create all the times with dualism, human and nature, bad and good. And now we are the baddie, the human being is now the baddie, and the hurt, this very general concept, is the good. So in my opinion, if we really want to be, and actually when you spread this into the society and to the common people, the people understand this, but actually they feel very stressed. They feel very, how I'm doing something bad, and I don't know how to handle it, because it's too big. How can I help the planet? I'm in my home, I can put the paper into the right trash and that thing in the right trash, and this is a way to also, to make people not only awareness, because it's not a matter of awareness, but it's a matter of guilty, So we have to switch, and we have to put the arrow from guilty to awareness, which is a different thing. And in my opinion, the work of artists can do that. The work of artists can step and dualism, and the work of Joaquin, goes beyond the dualism. If we see the glaciator or the rhabdomante, it is very interesting, because it is very interesting also that Joaquin always underlined the fact that someone asked him, how can you help the planet with this robot, and he replied, I'm an artist. That's the thing actually. So that rhabdomante is a symbolic fight against, it's a symbolic fight actually. So it is much more important to see the Raptomante than to hear many and many speech that put the question always in the dualism I was mentioning before, you know, bad and good, bad and good, etc. And so I guess I have to do a question. And then, so my question is, Joaquin, how do you see your work to help the awareness and not to make people guilty? You know, how do you think your work can help to go beyond the dualism?
Well, this is another hard question for me. Okay, I just can talk about the people, how they behave after seeing my work, and this is the way that I can measure that. Sometimes I have the opportunity, and I think it's about, for example, in talking about the biosphere, 10 years ago, more or less, I gave a TED talk and I present the Biosphere Project. And when I finished my talk, I went to the bathroom, and in the bathroom was a janitor there and asked me, is real that the plants can be maintained inside there? This is like our planet. And I thought, well, I'm in the right path, I'm in the right way. And then I communicate that to the organizer, and they talk about this janitor during the conference. And it's a way that, you know, the people feel touched in some way. And this is the way that they can encourage it. This is the way that they don't feel guilty because of seeing the plants in the biosphere. They feel that they understand in better how the world works and the fragility of our work. When we go outside, we see the sky, and I think, well, this is a planet, a huge planet. How can I impact in the planet? But we are more than 7,500 millions in the planet. So if everybody of us impacting the planet, we have a huge impact. But this is a way I think they don't feel guilty when they see the biosphere. The biosphere, as Guillermo Winnicki said, we have the pleasure to take the art to the people. The people don't have to go to a museum to see the biosphere. They are in the metro station in Buenos Aires in a huge installation. They are now locked down, but in the university in Cambridge, where the students can go through to the place that they are crossing the place they are in the road. You know, they don't have to go to see specific art. And there are some projects that maybe they feel guilty, and I want them to feel guilty when I talk about the nuclear weapons or something like that, or how we have to take care of our planet. There are simple things that we can do, not just collecting the specific trash to throw our waste, but for example, there are something that I like that they said, which is the best kilowatt generated? The best kilowatt is not from renewable energy, from coal, from oil. The best kilowatt is the kilowatt that we don't use. So this is the best kilowatt. So we have small things to do at home. Just don't use this kilowatt and this is the best kilowatt? This is a question that we have to, encourage the people with this project. We have to do something because of that. We cannot go to Antarctica and try to fight with the ice. We don't know. Maybe we can make a huge machine that can transform the damage we made into the environment and recover the environment again. But there are many solutions. For example, in Costa Rica, they decide to not to grow crops in the places that was a jungle before, and they know that it will take 100 years to recover. But the first year of the 100 years is this year. Okay.
I will give the word to Johnny. Johnny, he has some comments and questions.
Yeah, no, I just want to point very, very quickly that I'm very agree with the discussion, and it's very interesting that when I come from is an island, so we are very limited in resources. So solutions and problems are quite like a perfume, like a concentration of something. No, it's very little, but it's very concentrated. And trying to appoint something maybe that is a problem is such the same way to get into the solution. So few people had to agree in something in common. So Joaquin, my question for you is that how can we start to rethink a better world by means of a non-monetary solidarity as a common ground sense? And I think that education is a way of do that. So maybe we can start thinking about maybe a nature citizen, or something like that, representing a new way to face the understanding of the complexity and dualism that Valentino was saying between the struggle of how far or how near is our relation with Earth.
Well, I think first of all, when I hear education, I think that education is the key for everything. Education is the key for the future, because we are in many ways we need to change the way of thinking and the way that we have to be less monetarized, as you said, because maybe in the future we don't need money because we have everything from the others. If we have solidarity, we have everything for the others. And there are a lot of people very keen to share with the others their knowledge, for example. And I think this, the world is changing because of that. It's changing maybe, do we need in the future a copyright? Why we have a copyright? Copyright is about money. But if we don't need money, we don't need a copyright. We just share with the people. What about people doing research to find a vaccine for the COVID-19? What are the intentions? They want to have money for that. They want to be rich, or they are just having the satisfaction of doing something for the others in these complicated days. I think that education is, we have to change the way to educate right now, because we are educating the people for future jobs. You said the people, if you study, you will have a good job in the future. If not, there will be no jobs for the people. And I think, why are you studying for a job? Because there will be no jobs in the future. So the people say, oh my God, there will be no jobs. Yes, sorry for the politicians, but there is not the slogan you have for the future. The politicians say, vote me, I will create 1 million of jobs. And how? It's not options. The technology says there are no jobs for the people. if you see the Tesla factory with all the robotics arm building the robot there in this new film called Planet of Humans that suggested Guillermo Winnicki to see yesterday in Verena, I saw it, and you see these robots and said, there's no people there. So there are no jobs. We have to teach the people how to do with their time. Not the spare time, with the whole time. And we need these people that need to be connected to nature. Because if they are not connected to nature, we have no future. What about the future? But we said, well, the world stopped, there are no transportation, you see less pollution everywhere, the factories, but for how long? We all of us need energy, but maybe less energy than we think we need. So I have no answers, exactly answers. I have more questions, but it's about questions. Maybe in the future there will be no money, just what I call a GUE is a global environmental unit that can, manage the world instead of the money. Who knows?
Actually, Joaquin, we had some years ago, you had another project called Bio Credit, no? And it was a system of especially of an alternative money, which was the carbon dioxide actually consumption we had also from, or the ecological footprint. So considering the use of goods we had per day, no, something like this is our our credit. So maybe
yes, it's something like that. Yes, in 2008 I was working in what I call the environmental credit project, and it was having many different ideas. For example, it was based in the future. When I connect with some lawyers asking about the rights of the future generation, they said the future generations have no rights. Why they have no rights? Because to have rights, you have to be alive. If you are dead, you have no rights. As you are not born, you have no rights. I say, well, so let's talk about potential rights. Potential rights is about a kind of the rights that are maybe in the future. We are for sure the people is giving birth every day. They are so. And 10 years later, there are some people that they are fighting for the future generation from the justice perspective. And in this case, I have this environmental credit cards. It was just to play. It's an art project, again, where you can play with these cards and you receive in the community the cards with the environmental credits you can use, for example, for transport, for eating, for everything, for using energy. And maybe in the future, we will be born with these credit cards that we can use the whole life. And I plan to make an exhibition of we use during our whole life. And it was impossible to make it because we don't have the money for the exhibition. We just make some infographies of the things we use during our whole life. And for example, we use in more or less 4,000 oil barrels during our whole life. 4,000. So it's a huge amount of oil barrels that we need for our whole life. Maybe we can save some of them. If you see this in a project, the whole things that we use during our life span is terrible. So maybe how many cars you can put on a pile, how many, you know, brush teeth, how many amount of floor, for example. So, well, this is part of the project you mentioned.
Cool. I don't know if somebody wants to contribute something. I had actually just some ideas because yesterday I saw the documentary of Planet of the Humans, and it was really interesting because he's really critical with all these renewable energy systems now. And he said, one question is it possible for machines made by civil industrialization to save us from civil industrialization? That was a question part of the movie, which was really made me thought and made me think, like, we are trying to solve everything with technology. So now we work with art, science, and technology. What do you say about this? Or do the rest also, no? But just to reflect a little bit about that.
Anyone to answer?
Yeah. No, well, yeah, it's a very interesting question. AI will replace a lot of the things that we are doing right now. It's very clear. And now we are not only having the problem that we are going to work in a different way for sure in the midterm everywhere. We are going to have sooner than expected AI all over, and this will replace a lot of jobs. I mean, I think the whole thing is related. Yeah.
And I think this is part of the big discussion right now, especially this control of ENA to my privacy, to everybody, how each of us is living. Zoom is one of the technologies big criticized, no? But about the security problems, but we share. How can we share know-how and protect our privacy at the same time and be not observed by somebody I don't want to be observed? I don't know. It's this part of the question of our future life.
It is really interesting because we knew that there is something that can follow us for every step we are doing, but now we know exactly that this is very, very easy and very easy to do, because now the governments can follow each of us on GPS. I mean, some countries are using this for the coronavirus. So this is now the new reality, that we do know that if a government wants, they can follow us with our mobile phones and know exactly where we have been, what we have done, and with whom. And even though we knew that, now we are sure that this is feasible. And this is, I believe, this is a very different perception. Now we are completely sure that this is something that is happening.
Yeah.
I want to add something. The question you said, what happened with industrialization that maybe is against the environment? The same products that we make to fight against nature, or to have, for example, in this case, renewable energy, came from the industrialization process. So like a windmill, for example, was the example they put in the movie. But I think that maybe we are going very fast. For example, the cell phones are, every year they consume less energy. So this is the way that we have to think about what main problems is energy. And we can tackle this problem if we think using less energy instead of replacing the energy with other kind of, or other source of energy. And in the movie, they don't talk about nuclear energy. They're very cautious not to talk about that. I don't know why they don't talk about nuclear energy. It was interesting.
Yeah,
because it's something you have to have the whole picture, not just maybe it was just because of the renewable energy that it was like a slogan for many companies to talk about the environment and to, you know, to feel less guilty or to show the people that they were doing something for the environment. But I think that when we talk about these big machines that we have to make, or these complex solar panels that need silicon, but not just silicon from the sun, we need quartz or something like that, and make we need coal also to make that. We are talking about complex technology. When we talk about AI or artificial intelligence, is different because we don't need too much energy to apply the artificial intelligence to something that could be good for the common good. Okay, yeah. I think it's about energy and more than the technology itself.
Christian, we want to go to one question we have here right now, no? In our room. Valeria.
Valeria.
Guillermo también.
Oh, he's raising the hand.
Guillermo, do you want to speak before? Or do you also want to answer the question? It will be I give you the task. No, okay. But the answer, actually the question was given directly to Joaquin. So, and then I think we can all reflect on it anyway.
Yes. With Joaquin, we have worked together in several projects for almost 20 years. Without doubt, his art is a good tool to communicate your or our objectives. But from your point of view, how could spread it to a global scale? Could you follow me?
How can
could spread it to global scale?
Yeah, that's it. Well, this is not easy, no?
No, obviously.
I think, well...
if you have an idea.
No, I think that that's a problem is about we are in different sidewalks. For example, when you talk about money is in one side, and when we talk about the environment is in the other side, and that's a problem when you have an idea to spread these ideas worldwide. There is no way we don't have the media to make that. It's just about, sometimes it's about opportunities, and sometimes about how the idea, you know, I think, well, I have no answer. How I have no.
Okay.
Maybe I have a lot of ideas, but they are not thinking how I can spread this to the whole world.
Yeah. Maybe it's a good opportunity to come back, but because it's a global thinking, but a local action. And I think this will be more and more clear again right now. We are more and more connected globally, but we are now really reduced to act very locally because we cannot get out of our houses, no? So I think this will be especially, sorry, a big question for the future. And also, this is also here the question of Valeria. She was asking,
okay.
And I think Johnny wanted to answer this question. You're right. Technology. Yes, and she was asking Joaquin about his opinion. How are we preparing future generations to take care about the environment? Are we educating our children, and are we doing enough?
Do you want to answer that, Johnny? No? Oh, okay, I go for it. Well, I think that we are not doing enough. Of course, we are not doing enough, because it's not about, sometimes you need to be more, you need to go more in deep of this question, because when you talk about the environment, or we talk about being green, a lot of people talk about being green, but if you want to educate about being green, you have to start of being more, less consuming, and you know, looking for some educating in very specific tasks that you can do because of the environment. Today, you know, the children have a lot of toys. There are a lot of toys, and even the poor have a lot of toys, because the rich kids have so many toys that they are very, very keen to give the toys to other kids. So there are a lot of toys in the world. And how much of them are needed, really needed? So how we can educate, telling the kid, for example, that he has to be more, to have to save a lot of things in the world. What about the clothes, about everything? So I think we have to start educating on that, continue educating on the environment in a lot of things. That, for example, the food is, a lot of food is processed before. Why don't we can use less food that came from the cans or boxes or whatever? If you can have, in the grocery, you have vegetables, you have fruit, have everything, a lot of things that they just came, that you take them from nature. I think we can educate on that, how we can use things that are less industrialized, like you were talking about industrialization. A lot of food came from the industrialization, and education is not just one subject, one time, once a week. It's about all day long about the environment. We are living in the environment, we are using the environment, we are part of the environment. So education is about that. It's education as in the environment, as part of the environment.
Actually, I
would do a lot in the future. Of course, we are not doing enough.
No, that's true. And I would like to add something here, because that's the main part of our daily work. And also I think of Frank's work in La Paternal is to work with kids and to work with schools. So actually here in Buenos Aires, we have a lot of difficulties sometimes to get the kids out of the school and to get into contact with nature, because they really need special permissions to have an excursion or to make an excursion. So I think especially the contact with nature is really important, and to get to know how you are prepared to be in nature for a longer time. So like going camping, or I think the most of the kids today, and we had like gardening projects with 3-4 years old, and they were afraid to touch earth. They were really afraid to touch the plant, because they're like, ugh. So it's this part of getting into contact with nature again, which is really important, I think. And this is especially here what Isia is also saying in our questions. What about going back to kindergarten outside, such as wild kindergarten, the kindergarten in the forest? We had that in Germany. I was a kid. I was outside in nature every day, and my parents didn't even see me. But today it's like everybody's so panicked about the security of the children and the protection. It's really overprotection, especially, But I think this is an important idea, an important part of it, and I think this is also questioning our lifestyle. So a lot of parents right now, they're locked in with their kids in the apartment and cannot leave. I think the first thing they will do is go, when they can go out again, go to a park or go to even further in the forest and be there in contact with nature, and then they will see also how much they were missing it, I guess. Just my personal reflection here.
Yes, I think that is good, this question about issue that we have to go outside for, and not just for kindergarten, from every level, school level, you must do that. Sometimes talking about the earth and the touch, I was working with some kids many years ago in the science center, and they got, all the clothes were with mud and something there, and one of the kids said, "Oh, my mother is going to punish me because I get absolutely dirty," and it was terrible. It was pity for me because this kid was start to crying because of her mother was going to punish him because he was dirty, because he was working with the earth, and that's terrible. And I think that maybe school will be outside. You just gather sometimes at school, but every day you have an expedition to everywhere. A school bus is waiting for you, going to a factory, to crops, visiting the farms and whatever. I think I understand that it's difficult to organize, but this would be the way that you can educate the people in real life, not in a box.
Yeah, exactly.
My reflection is, I don't know if you agree, Joaquin, but since we were not being very gentle with the nature, now we are going to learn and to really appreciate how nice nature is.
Are we going to really appreciate nature after the pandemic, or
I believe we all miss it.
Well, we miss nature, but the problem, we are going to, to be committed to take care of nature. That's a question.
Yeah, that's a good question, and we were talking about it last time again, that for example, the United States or Germany, the voices in order to help economy, that we make it more, how you see, that we lower the control, the environmental control, and the especially textile industry in Germany was reclaiming that they could not produce the hygiene mask next year because the European Union forbid the chemical parts they need for the production of these masks. So there you see again how you say dual, or how this two parts of the view we are entering right now. And Trump also, he said he will definitely set out the environmental controls in order to let the companies what they want to do. So that was some news really shocked me the last week. So I think we will have a lot to do as artists, as communicators, and as educators to really get also politicians and especially the economy people and the responsible persons back on track in order to do something good.
Well, I think it's about the duality that Paul Valentino is about, how we can be just one, because I think we'll come again to when you talk about this, Germany will buy next year the mask from China without any problem. And you think that there are a lot of parts of the world that are kind of backyard, that where you send all the trash there and all the things to do there. And there are many countries that, like Finland, for example, Finland, they have a lot of regulations in Europe to put a paper factory, so they decide to put the paper factory in the Uruguay River. So, and you are talking about the best, you know, it's a kind of country in the world that are the best about the environment. But I told all these people that I want to tell these people that if they are not guided by solidarity to make a better world, maybe you have to think about the convenience to have a better world, because we are all connected. And if you are doing something wrong or bad in other part of the world, we are all connected through the air, through the water, through everything. So if you are not talking about solidarity, just talk about convenience.
Right.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
I'm just, I think also that so the educational matter issues is very important. You know, I agree with that, you know, because I think that it must also to be changed the way in which we educate. So the educational strategies, you know, also, for instance, you know, the new kind of educational, they're not new anymore actually, but like learning by doing, for instance, you know, and, you know, and more practical and as you were saying, you know, in direct contact with the theme you're teaching, you know. So the educational strategy, which is very, very difficult, because it's easy to say, but it's more difficult to practice, you know. Even if, you know, even in Italy, you know, there are many new wave to educate that are growing. And then, you know, and I think also that it could be also good, you know, to change the vocabulary, for instance, unless we still use some terms like we still speak of nature in a very general way, you know. And there is a very interesting book written by Timothy Morton that you probably, I don't know if you heard it, you know, which is called, you know, Hyperobject, which is criticized this general concept of nature, you know, which is something that creates only dualism. But he talks about hyperobject, you know, that, you know, that to be more close to the real hyperobject, so object very, very big that for us it's very difficult to understand. Like, for instance, climate change, you know, it is an object and it is something very big that we experience only when we feel something of our body, you know. So also a reflection on change, starting to change the vocabulary could be helps, in my opinion, and, you know, go behind, you know, the dualism we were saying before.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, good reflection as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have another question here, and I think we have some 8 minutes left in order to stay in time today.
Okay.
So it would be a good opportunity to go back to politics and to international politics, because the question here is from Miguel Angel Hildman. He's from the UNESCO in Paris, and he's reflecting or asking to Joaquin, do you think that UNESCO is to play a role after, during and after the pandemic, and which one? So what I should do based on your personal experience?
Wow, it's a huge question. Maybe I have to think a lot of this question. But well, I think you know, UNESCO has an important role in many ways because of education. So I think that education is the key of this. So UNESCO has many things to do during and after the pandemic. Which one exactly? I don't know exactly, but I think that as an institution that has this important institution and honorable institution, you have to make, I think the role is to, first of all, during the pandemic, can fight against the fake news, for example, detect the fake news. So today there are a lot of news about the pandemic that are viralized in different media, and institutions like UNESCO have to check this, maybe this fake news, and say, well, this is the real thing here. Do we have, for example, a vaccine right now, or we have to wait for some time? Or we have that or that. Maybe that is something that could be done during the pandemic. And maybe in the future, we have to change about, I work a lot with UNESCO, mainly in Montevideo, because they have this science program in Montevideo and Uruguay. And we work with them with all it has to do with popularization of science. Science is for everybody, and now we add art also for everybody. And there are many projects connected with art, science, and technology, and can be based on UNESCO, and this would be a good opportunity. I work with Ernesto Fernandez Polcuch, that has to be your companion, your mate, and maybe this is a good opportunity to start thinking of doing something together from this perspective. The perspective from the arts is, you know, which is the difference between science and art. We expect from the science some real solution, and what do we expect from the arts is maybe something, a more triggering idea, solution, not right, a solution, exact solution. But maybe we expect, or I expect from the arts, to encourage the people including science and technology, to think outside the box, to think that something could be done. And I like to say that I finished some of my conference saying we have to do something, even if we don't know the results, because if we do nothing, we already know the results. So we have to do something, and this is the way that we can use the art connected with science and technology, and maybe this way that UNESCO could encourage this project to grow.
Yeah, and also to share, because you have the UNESCO has the international connection, has the international power to communicate also these ideas, visions, and the different solutions you're developing now, like the inspirational art and the solutions from science. So I think this is one of the biggest parts of the responsibility also for UNESCO to use more the communication power. Well, 2 minutes left, so I don't know if somebody else has some more. Like here we have some, and learning to do with work with ITC, with all the sectors. Cultural sector is doing a lot, and education sector too. Yeah, that's definitely the point. ITC is helping us to connect the different sectors, and especially to use also to develop ideas together. This is the great thing of our time right now. We are sitting in different parts of the world and thinking together. So we're here a new think tank, and maybe we should get together to become a make tank. No, I think after some of these conferences, we have to decide what do we really do now and together.
Okay, I think just a final idea came up yesterday when I was thinking about this. Maybe it's the time that we have to be less human, because being human is not good for the environment. Maybe we have to be less human and a little bit more animal, because the animals are the only that take care of the environment. They take care of the habitats, and we are not taking care of our own planet. So be less human.
Good question to keep on discussing. You will start also a wiki on the complex thought lab, no, what you're planning or what you're doing or what we are already part of.
Yeah.
So I think actually I just want to say thank you to everybody for spending the time. Some of you in Argentina, they spend your lunch break, and in Germany or in Europe, you spend your evening, and you can already start to celebrate. In Germany, you would celebrate now to dance into the May. It's a telling, because tomorrow we have 1st of May, and you usually dance all together and drink and have fun. So we were already thinking of maybe do some dance together here with Zoom tonight. But yeah, I hope you can do this soon again. So if from my part, thank you very much to everybody. And we are open for any questions. And if you want to keep on continuing the dialogue, we will upload this video on YouTube, and you can leave your comments there as well. And yeah, will be a great pleasure to see you next time.
Thank you, Verena. Thank you, Joaquin.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
It was a great pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you for Joaquin for spending your thoughts and your inspiration.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being in time. It is 2:31, so we are right on time for the people to don't waste time and keep focused. Ciao, Valentino.
Sherman, punctuality.
Yes, this time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.